In this final module, we'll be talking about the emotional elements of the support that you will give as a PA for a person with a neuromuscular condition. There's a broad range of neuromuscular conditions. While some are associated with certain mental health conditions and cognitive impairment, many are not. Ros Quinlivan is a consultant neurologist.
So most people with a neuromuscular condition do not have a learning disability, but there are some specific disorders where there may be associated learning disabilities. And so that needs to be taken into account in terms of how you communicate with that person. So it's important you communicate with those people in a language that they can understand, that you don't use too much jargon or complex language. But it's also equally important that you don't assume everybody has a learning disability. So in terms of learning disabilities, some people, again, with a neuromuscular disorder associated with learning disabilities, there may be an autistic spectrum disorder, and it's important to understand that, because those people may have phobias and anxieties, and they may feel that things have to be done in a certain way each time, and if you change the order in which you do things, that may upset the person. So I think what I would say the important thing is to find out when you first meet that person whether there are any of these other issues there, and what they like and what they need to make their life easier and run more smoothly.
The majority of people with neuromuscular conditions have mental capacity, which means that they are fully able to understand information, retain that information, weigh up risks, and communicate their decisions.
So capacity is about being able to make decisions and understand why these decisions are needed. So you make decisions for yourself, and that also means giving consent as well.
Oliver Poole works as a counsellor and also with a business providing PAs to disabled university students.
When a client is experiencing mental health difficulties, as opposed to not, if it was like, person A and person B, sensitivity is massively heightened for the PA, understanding, first of all, what the mental health difficulty is. Is it to do with anxiety? Is it to do with sadness and depression? And sort of identifying key emotions.
You will be supporting your employer in physical tasks while they experience all the natural moods that every human being has. Some people have a broad emotional range and some narrow. You will be seeing your employer at home and in their private space, and at times when they would not choose to put on an act to hide emotions. Kim Kemp has PAs who support her at home.
I suppose I have this standard that I've always got to be friendly, nice, grateful, appreciative, and sometimes I just want to say, bog off and leave me alone.
People with neuromuscular conditions are people. People are people, aren't they? Whatever we have, whether it's MD, SMA, whatever. So, yes and no, depends on the person. Is that person with the neuromuscular condition introverted, extroverted? What kind of personality type are they? And this is something to be mindful from a PA's point of view. Everybody is so different, no matter what the label is, what the diagnosis is. It's important getting a flavour of the personality, the person in the hoist, the person in the chair.
How the person you're working with expresses themselves at home is unlikely to be directed at you, and you should try not to take it personally. In fact, many PAs take it as a compliment if their employer feels comfortable to let their guard down and express their emotions freely.
So PAs working with clients in their own homes, I would highly recommend they adopt a non-judgmental attitude and also be incredibly liberal and understand the client's individual needs, wants, values, and respecting that.
Having a neuromuscular condition has many stresses, and sometimes these might negatively affect the mood of the person you're working with. Remember that sadness is a normal human emotion and is not necessarily a sign of clinical depression.
The physical barriers that neuromuscular conditions present to people, they do make you feel different sometimes, can make you feel isolated, 100% dependent, even though cognitively, emotionally, we are very strong individuals and motivated. So that really counteracts our own perception of ourselves, being courageous and inspirational. So when that does clash, it really does clash, and it hurts because we have our own image, and then the true image of ourselves is being kind of hit hard by the barriers, the physical barriers we will face.
I need to start by saying I absolutely love my PAs and they're great and I appreciate them so much and I'm so grateful and they're awesome. But hate is not a strong enough word for how I feel about people having to come in and get me out of bed, wash the unmentionables, have to get me ready, have to do everything for me. I hate it with a passion. I'm very independent. I'm very strong-willed. I'm determined. So with muscular dystrophy, I feel it's a very dirty condition. It's a dirty fighter.
It can make you go inwards to yourself and feel very quite down at a low ebb.
Don't forget that as moods change, so do feelings about whether to share emotions with those around you. You may find that the person you work with is sometimes very open with you, and at other times more reserved. There are no rules or expectations about how they should express their emotions with you, and you should take your lead from them about what they want at different times.
With myself, with dysphagia and SMA, I really struggle to maintain a healthy BMI. I'm very much underweight, so that can cause a lot of emotional stress for me.
Your role is primarily to give practical and physical support, and the person you work with may have a network around them of friends and family who give them the normal emotional support that we all get from our social circle. Don't worry if they don't share personal thoughts, feelings, and emotions with you, particularly when you're new to the role. Some people choose never to confide in their PAs, and this is not a reflection on anyone. It's down to the personal choice and character, and people express themselves in different ways.
Just the fact that I think the PAs do support me. They've been with me 2-3 years, so they understand me, they get me. They get that I'm a fighter, I'm determined, but they do get that sometimes I can't take it anymore and I get dark places.
I think for the PA to be able to look at the context and the environment of that client as a whole, the family, the friends, the community they're in, the work that they're in. And yeah, if it's a bit loopy or a bit strange, but they like strange and that's their normal, then fine, that's okay. So what I'd say, to reiterate, for the PA to look wider than the client to see the normality that they are in, or try to get a normality from it at least.
We all need downtime and space sometimes. The conflict between the need to have physical support and the need for privacy can be a difficult balance. Many people with neuromuscular conditions will choose not to share things with their PAs which are not relevant to the practical job. This may include things happening in their personal life which trigger their emotions. So if you're observing a particular emotional response and you don't know what's caused it, remember to respect your employer's right to privacy.
Sometimes they'll just, if there's things to do, they'll carry on with it, or they'll just sit down and let me talk it through. But if I'm having a really bad day where I'm just sitting on the chair kind of staring at the TV, they will say, "You're all right," they'll come over, maybe give me a hug, but they'll just kind of carry on with what they're doing and just wait to see if I'm going to say or do anything. So yeah, they do give me that time.
You can exercise empathy by thinking about how you would feel, what you would want in the situation as you understand it. You can also be sensitive to your employer's emotional responses and accommodate them without intruding.
Being able to feel understood, I think, when the working relationship is working well, there is definitely empathy there, and that empathy allows the relationship to grow. So things like, how is empathy shown? Being able to actively listen to one another, and then you are able to really truly understand what the client is looking to achieve, no matter how sensitive or personal it might be, the objective at hand.
At times when your employer does choose to express negative or intense emotions and share problems with you, remember it's not necessarily a sign of mental illness. It's not your role to fix problems or diagnose. As you build a strong working relationship, the person you're working with may choose to confide in you more. You can be a sympathetic sounding board and listen as a friend would. Remember, you have a duty of confidentiality, and sometimes it can be an enormous comfort to voice thoughts in private, knowing it will go no further.
I think with the PAs that I have round about me, there is hugs offered, and there's emotional support there. They'll sit down with me and let me just talk through how I'm feeling. But I think sometimes when it's agency staff, and then it's somebody one week, somebody the next week, I find that really difficult. And then you do sort of start taking it out on the person, and then I feel like crap after it, because I just sometimes feel, if you could see the tsunami of emotions that goes through my head, not just dealing with them, but dealing with everything.
The amount I talk to my PAs is conditional on the trust levels and empathy, relational depth that is going on within the relationship.
If you're ever concerned that the person you're working with is suffering from untreated mental health issues, or that known mental health needs are changing, you must still maintain confidentiality. Raise your concerns first directly with them, and in most circumstances, you will need to respect the fact that as an adult with capacity, it is their choice whether to seek help. If you think they're putting themselves at extreme risk, consider discussing your concerns with others who have observed the same situation, such as family members or your fellow PAs who work with the person. Only if there is immediate danger to your employer, yourself, or others can you break confidentiality or share information without consent. In this module, we've explored how neuromuscular conditions can impact mental health and cognition, the types of emotional range which are normal for anyone, regardless of whether they have a neuromuscular condition, and the difference between mood and mental illness. We've talked about the ways that you might become aware of the emotions of the person you work with, the types of communication your employer might choose for sharing their emotions, and how you can be supportive without intruding where it would be unwelcome. We've reviewed the importance of confidentiality. We've looked at how to support someone in the event of mental illness.